Well, Harmy, a couple of talking points from the two T20 internationals that were played. Liam Livingstone, as we mentioned, very, very strong in the second T20 in particular, but made 37 in the first game, 87 in the second, batting at number 4, bowled beautifully as well, took 2 for 16 in that game. He's not had the best of times over the last year and a bit, has he? I mean, there's a lot of faith and trust that's been invested in him. And when he produces performances like that, you can see why.
Yeah, absolutely. He's like the Zach Crawley of the white ball team, isn't he? I mean, he's so much talent. I'm pro Liam Livingstone. I criticised him a little bit at the back end of the tournaments, and England were probably in a sliding doors moment with him. Do we call him as well as Johnny Bairstow and one or two of the other ones who are getting older, move him on because he's had a lot of chances? Or do we give him responsibility? And I mean, I was fully behind the fact that you give him responsibility. He's batting in the top 4. He's probably wouldn't have batted in the top 4 if Joss was around. He probably would have batted 5. But it just seemed as though that responsibility has been a positive outcome. And I think that's now where England need to look at him. If he is thriving off this responsibility, then fantastic, because there's no doubt Liam Livingstone's a supremely talented player, both with bat and ball and in the field. He looks a bit fitter, if I'm honest. I look at him now and I see him during the tournaments. He came back from an injury, didn't he? For the 2 white ball tournaments, the T20 and the red ball tournament. He had a little injury before that. He looked as though he wasn't as fit as what he normally is. And I think he looks strong. He looks fit. I seen him at Old Trafford. He looked in good order. And I think now, hopefully, this is a chance of Liam Livingstone really sticking a claim on being one of England's senior players. Now, the likes of Bairstow's gone and Moeen Ali's gone and one or two others have sort of, been moved aside. This is Liam Livingstone's chance to really be the shining light for England, because the boy's got talent. I mean, he batted really well at Cardiff. He got the 87, he smashed it. I thought the 37 he got down at the Aegeus was a good knock. 37 doesn't seem that much, but I think it was worth more than that. He was very, very good, and I think he's bowled well as well in this last 2 games.
Utilita. We should give them the give them the mention.
Tell about 25 different names. No wonder we don't know. It's good. It's good. And I know we've got the a little bit from the chief exec, but I mean, what could the utility be called next year? So it's had about 45 different names.
We just stick to Rose Bowl, shall we?
Exactly.
Okay, a couple of other questions. Since Sam Curran was player of the tournament when England won the T20 World Cup a couple of years ago in Australia, his graph has not been going up. He became the most expensive player in IPL history, but he seems to get belted more often than not when he bowls, and isn't producing quite the match-winning performances for England with the bat. I mean, he's been in great form for Surrey, but he got belted again in both games.
Yeah, it just seems as though there's something not quite right with young Sam at this moment in time. Whether he's not getting the love that he was once getting, whether he's not feeling the love from the dressing room, whether there's something in there that just doesn't seem right with Sam, and possibly the Brendon McCullum Midas touch might be what Sam Curran needs. I mean, Brendan's obviously a player that I would imagine would enjoy working, or a person that will enjoy working with Sam Curran. All action, bat and ball, somebody that wants to be in the game, always tries to create a contest. This is straight up Brendon McCullum Street. So I think, as soon as the sooner that McCullum can get to work with Sam Curran, I think, the better. It just seems at this moment in time, wearing an England shirt, Sam has a little bit of a problem. He's not possibly finding the love that he once was when he was producing all them performances. But it'll come back, boys. I mean, he's too good. He will come back. I've got no doubt that whatsoever. I think England are still a better team with Sam Curran in it, He just maybe he's needed a little bit of luck, get a 30 or a 40 from somewhere, pick up a couple of wickets, and then he gets back on the train a bit like what Liam Livingstone has.
And just a couple of other things. Harry Brook to captain the ODI team. That's interesting as well. His star is definitely on the up, on the rise. And I want to finish off with a quick mention about finals day at Edgbaston. But so, yeah, Ben Duckett, Jamie Smith, Matthew Potts back into the ODI team, and Harry Brook to captain.
Yeah, it's interesting they've gone with Brook. I think it's the right call. The problem is like the red ball and the white ball crossovers now, and the tours the way they are, it's going to be very, very difficult to nail down somebody like Harry Brook to captain a white ball team if in the event that Josh Buttler doesn't play or isn't involved. So I'm pleased to see that. I think what the Superchargers got with Harry Brook, Andrew Flintoff combination, I think that worked very well by what I'm hearing. And Harry Brook enjoyed leadership. He enjoyed being captain. So let's see what happens on that. But I think Harry Brook's got a very, very good cricket brain. You can see that the way he bats, see that the way he plays. The problem having him involved in sort of leadership and captaincy role is how much bilateral cricket is that he going to play. But hey, let's give him a go. Let's see what he's got, and fingers crossed he does a great job. I'm sure he will.
And Jake Bethel as well. He might find himself in a very prominent role as a
see him play red ball cricket. Yeah, I would like to see him play red ball cricket, man. I really would. I really would like to see him play. But the problem we've got with that is he's that good at white ball stuff. Where's he going to get his red ball? Where's he going to get the sort of little learning of how to play, red ball? I know, Rob Keel said to me, it doesn't matter. We don't need him to play red ball cricket. We just throw him in, and he's a good player, and he'll learn. But I think at the age he's at, I still think he could do with a little bit of red ball cricket to, batting for long periods of time, especially when you come up against a good bowling attack. And if he does, potentially play sooner rather than later, he's going to come up against a couple of good bowling attacks. So that's always the $1 million question. How do they get the experience of playing and batting for long periods of time? Because I think this boy is really, really talented in such a way where I think if there was a big injury in the middle order for England, I'd be tempted to throw him in because I think he's a very, very talented player.
Okay, I've saved a coach for the final word at the end of the programme. One of my a player who's one of my favourites in his time. Mark Elaine was another, Harmy, who I had a massive, massive soft spot for during his playing days. Apparently, his coaching career didn't take off because he's not a great one with the filofax and the filing cabinet. He's not a logistics man, but you put him in a tracksuit and he has transformed this Gloucestershire team. On finals day, they were absolutely outstanding. David Payne was my player of the tournament. 1 for 9 in the semi-final against Sussex in 4 overs, 1 for 9, and then 3 for 27 in the final against Somerset. And I can't imagine that there are any true cricket lovers who weren't truly pleased to see Gloucestershire win their first Blast title.
Absolutely. Man, is absolutely 100%. I mean, you look at finals day, there was 3 non-100 sides in it for a start, which is always a positive. Shows you, and that's not a knock at the Blast, but on what the other teams were looking at the Blast. These were the best teams in the competition. They showed that over a long period of time. None of them are sort of fashionable sides. Somerset won it last year. They were brilliant. I thought young Rue, that innings between Rue and Dickinson to get past Surrey was that was an unbelievable partnership, because during the first game, I'm thinking Dan Morrell's got this on a piece of string, 2 wickets early on. They're not getting anywhere near this. And Surrey's going to go, waltzing into the final. And then all of a sudden, the Somerset put a partnership up. And then I think Gloucester blew Sussex away. That was not a real contest. And then the final, yes, it wasn't a higher score, but I think David Payne showed, I mean, the amount of left armers we've been looking for over the course of the last few years. I think if David had moved from Bristol to somewhere central London, did a lot more for England in a white ball game. He is a very, very good operator. He's somebody who I think, especially at the top with a new ball, he is very, very difficult to score off, which means he's always creating pressure and chances. And, fair play. I was chuffed a bit for Gloucester. And Mark Lane, somebody who apparently has put a lot of CVs in the post and contacts a lot of chief executives to say, can I have a job? Not even got an interview. And he's done a brilliant job at Gloucester, and long may that continue, because, I am all for, reducing the amount of counties when it comes to red ball cricket, but I'm not when it comes to white ball cricket, because we need counties all around the country to produce players, satellite teams. And if you were to lose counties, like what a lot of my former colleagues are trying to say, get rid of counties, then three out of the four finals there would possibly be the ones that would be culled. And that, for me, is criminal in the game at this minute in time. So we need the counties, we need the players, we need the satellites to produce players. And what we've just seen in finals day this week is three counties who haven't got the 100 franchises producing players in white ball cricket, and put on a great spectacle, I thought, on Saturday night.
Miles Hammond and Cameron Bancroft both hit 50s in the final in that 8-wicket win, a century-opening partnership. We'll have to ask Bharat a little bit later on about Cameron Bancroft and whether he might be in line for a return to the Australian team. But that's it for the first part. A reminder, by the way, that you can hear updates of England's ODI series with Australia on talkSPORT, starting from the first one this Thursday. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. Next up, we'll be joined by Australian cricket writer and broadcaster Bharat Sundaresan to discuss how the Aussies are shaping up ahead of that ODI series. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, alongside Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison. And a reminder, you can subscribe to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel for plenty more content. And this week features an episode with Jarrod Kimber and Deep Dasgupta, who debate Brendon McCullum's appointment as England's new white ball head coach.
Can Baz create that thing in a T20 environment? And I think that's what he's best at, is to create that environment where, as a cricketer, I know exactly what I want to do, what I want to achieve. My clarity of thought is there. And do I have the freedom to go express myself with Baz? I think that's something that I have. So as a player, under those basic framework, and provided I have that skill set, I think I'll be a better player than, let's say, some of the other coaches.
Yeah, but so let's say that he's right, and Deep has nailed that, and he does it. They still don't have any death bowling, right? They still don't. Well, if Adil Rashid retires tomorrow, who's England's spinner, right? Yeah. And I've got a feeling, and I think they had an incredible generation where Joss Buttler, Moeen Ali, Owen Morgan, Joe Root, all these guys were very, very good players of spin.
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of the Blast over the last couple of weeks. The end of the tournament, I watched a bit of the 100 as well. I watch a lot of England players who seem to be incredible hitters of seam. And the minute the spinners come on, even if it's an average spinner, like some of these guys, I'm like, that's club level spin. They change the way they bat. And I'm not seeing that. You compare that to Australia, where you've got Mitch Marsh and Travis Head, who are incredibly flawed players in many ways. No one in the world wants to bowl spin to Travis Head anymore. How many players in the England lineup would you say that to about at the moment? And so if there's no fear from the opposition, I think teams are going to load up on spin against them. I just don't know how, I don't know how they win games consistently. I think he can improve the overall side, but I think India, South Africa, and Australia are just on a completely different level to England at the moment. It's a big step up. It'd be fascinating to see how he can try and work that out.
And you can watch the full interview on talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel. Right, Bharat Sundaresan, cricket writer and broadcaster supreme. The legend joins us from Adelaide. Thanks for your time, Bharat. Wonderful to see you and to hear your wonderful voice once again. So what did you make of the T20 series? Disappointing washout, obviously. And what are you expecting in the 5-match ODI series?
Firstly, I would be happy to see a few people in Australia watch that series, man. I'll be very, very honest with you. This is September. And as you know, through your travels, and you too, Harmy, this is football season, and this is finals season, one day in September. They even sing songs about it. So the only talk of the town is about football, and it doesn't help that these T20s have been played at, I think most games have started at 2 a.m. if I'm not mistaken, Melbourne, Sydney time, and then the one-dayers will start at 9 p.m. So you'll probably see a few people tuning in for the first power play and then probably heading to bed. So it is going to be a little challenging to generate a lot of interest. But having said that, look, a little more star strewn this one-day side as compared to the T20 side for Australia. But yeah.
And, but from that, I know there might be not many people watching in Australia, but there's a Champions Trophy on the horizon, not far away. There's some fresh faces in that Australia side. What are we going to learn, or what are Australians going to learn going into this series with one eye on the Champions Trophy from a selection point of view?
Yeah, and I think there will be more interest, Hami, about this one-day series from an Australian cricket circle sense because there is that Champions Trophy. The T20 series, well, yeah, they're building up for 2 years from now. So, they have enough time to do that. But, you speak of the fresh faces. Some in Australia are surprised that some well-known faces are still around, because when Australia won that 50-over World Cup last year, it felt like a lot of them, would go out on a high. I mean, Steve Smith and even some of the fast bowlers. But it looks like Australia, anyway, are prioritizing that Champions Trophy, which is why I see a lot of them in this side. Having said that, I think it'll be a question of, with David Warner gone, once again, it comes down to what that top order looks like going forward. And there are a few new names in there, or newish names in there anyway. But the middle order looks like it'll be the old force of Steve Smith and Marnus Labuschagne and Glenn Maxwell and co. So, but there will be a lot more interest from the selectors anyway on these 5 games. Because Australia do play a handful of ODIs, but then the focus will shift completely onto that Indian Test summer before the Champions Trophy.
Barrett, I don't know whether you saw it, but our dear mutual friend Jeff Lemon wrote a preview in The Guardian in which he said how important this series was and how much there was depending on it. And you just knew that he was writing under instruction. The editor was like, we need something positive, could put a really positive spin on this. Because let's be honest, all games are not the same. All games are not equal. George Orwell wrote that 70 years ago. And this is this. Anyway, I want to ask you about 2 players, Jake Fraser-McGurk and Travis Head. How exciting is the former? And did Australians realise 2 years ago how brilliant Travis Head could be or might become?
I don't think Travis Head himself realized that, Manners. Here in South Australia, we don't produce a lot of international cricketers, as you know, but when they do, they get very excited about that fact. And Travis Head has been a South Australian hero for the last 10 years. They made him state captain when he was 21, and I've seen him play some incredible white ball innings. Yes, we've seen what he can do in Test cricket in the last 3-4 summers, but 2 double hundreds in list A cricket, and he's one of those batters who, once he gets going, it's not always pretty. I always like to say Travis Head bats like he speaks. At times he doesn't finish his sentences too well, but that's how his batting is. It can not make sense at times, but when it comes off, it's destructive. And look what he's done across formats now. We saw it in the IPL and in the T20 series in Scotland, and even the other night against England. He changes games in 1 over. In one-day cricket, as we saw in the World Cup final, he changes games in a few overs. And in Test cricket, in an hour of Travis Head is often enough for Australia these days.
And Mitch Marsh takes the captaincy. Pat Cummins, is that going to be or do you think that's a sign of what's to come with? You've got an Indian summer then, and sort of our England Ashes coming over in our winter this time next year. You think the captaincy of Pat Cummins will predominantly be red ball, with 2 massive red ball series is coming up, and the white ball trying to be protecting of the captain?
I would think so, Hami. And look, even for Pat Cummins, what a great way to finish his one-day captaincy if that's what he wants to do. It's not that he's captained a lot in 50-over cricket. He was two matches in when he started the World Cup campaign last year. But he's been very, very clear that he was not going to play any white ball cricket. He wanted to rest himself for that big test series. Don't forget, Australia want to stop India from pulling off a three-peat. Like, yes, they won the last 2 times, India, but if they can do it again, it'll be quite a statement if it isn't already. So Pat Cummins is focusing himself on that. And Mitch Marsh, at least at the moment, has been earmarked as that white ball captain. So I won't be surprised if he continues on, not just in T20 cricket, but then he takes over in one-day cricket as well.
The Border-Gavaskar Trophy is incredibly exciting, and India's 2 wins have really set this one up, haven't they? I mean, let's not forget, South Africa didn't win a series in Australia for almost 100 years, and then they won 3 in a row. So, I lots of questions. I mean, I guess the majority of the Australian team, you could probably write in ink now, barring injury. But who is going to open the batting with Usman Khawaja, and will it be Cameron Bancroft, or does Steve Smith want to carry on?
I'd be very surprised, Manners, at least for the first 2-3 test matches, they bring anyone outside the top 6 that they have. I think Andrew McDonald has been very clear that he's identified, or they have identified as a selection panel, that the 6 batters they have right now with Khawaja, Smith, Marnus, Head, Marsh and Green are their top 6, and in whatever order they play, that's the 6. So Bancroft unfortunately might have to wait his turn, and who knows, maybe it'll be someone else who jumps the queue. I mean, they've always gone to Matt Renshaw first before Bancroft since 2019 Ashes. Steve Smith, an interesting one. Like, look, there's one side of it where people say, well, he's still got just 4 test matches and you need to grow into your opener's role. Simon Katich said that recently because he also went back to opening the batting towards the end of his career. Usman Khawaja and Manas Labuschagne have been very vocal about they would prefer Steve Smith in the middle order. But then who opens? I mean, a couple of days ago, the new revelation has been that maybe Mitchell Marsh might be the guy who goes up to the top, which should be quite an extreme move in my opinion. I mean, if Steve Smith was extreme, Mitchell Marsh, who clearly said last year when there was debate around who will replace David Warner that I don't want to be that guy. So, but I guess that decision's been taken away from his hands. But yeah, I mean, it's good for us, Manners. We can keep speculating for the next couple of months because there's not much else happening.
I must admit, from a bowler's point of view, and I think Steve Smith's one of the world's greatest batters, and the modern generation's up there with the likes of Kohli, Root, Williamson. But if I was in England's bowling attack, I'd be happier Steve Smith batting at number 1 than batting at number 4. And if that did happen and Steve Smith nicked off a couple of times, does that cause, the selectors in Australia even more problems? Because not only do they have to find an opener, if the middle order's firing, you're not going to drop Steve Smith. You're just going to move him down to somebody that might be scoring runs. And do they need clarity on that going into what is going to be two big series, 10 test matches, India and Australia? And as well as that, I'm going to do what Mann does, ask you another one at the same time. What happens if one of these 4 fast bowlers, because it just seems as though they will play 10 test matches if they can get through them because of their durability is unbelievable. But is there many coming through where you go, well, if we lose one of them, who's going to step in?
There are a lot coming through, Hami. There's Lance Morris, the wild thing they talked up last year. He was supposed to potentially start off in New Zealand, but then he got injured. He wasn't part of the squad. Riley Meredith has been doing the rounds. He was part of the T20 squad, but I think he's fallen off the radar a bit. Jai Richardson, every time he gets a chance to play Test cricket, he takes 5 wickets like he did against England in the Ashes in Adelaide. But he keeps breaking down. I guess you have Scott Boland and Michael Neser, both of whom are 34 now. So they're reaching that point in your career where it feels like do you look ahead and take a punt on a Lance Morris, or do you go back to Scott Boland? So Australia have already been extremely lucky, as you said. The fact that they've gone with these 3 for so long without touch wood, not a lot of injuries. Josh Hazlewood missed a lot of cricket between 21 and 23 Test cricket anyway, but he's come back strongly as well. Having Nathan Lyon helps. I mean, the bowler who's bowled more dead than anyone else in Test cricket in the last 14 years, so that's always a big bonus for them. Which is why I think Pat Cummins has also spoken a lot about how Mitch Marsh and Cameron Green will have a big role to play, which is another luxury they have of two all-rounders, in that top six. So I think you'll see them play a big role. And to your first question, I mean, that was the big gamble that Australia took when, in a way, they succumbed to Steve Smith's desire to open the batting, where you left yourself with no out. Like you said, what happens if Steve Smith keeps failing at the top? You can't drop him, he's Steve Smith, but then how do you move him down? Because Cameron Green, the whole logic was, okay, Cam Green wants to bat 4, and he played a great innings. It looked like he finally came of age in Test cricket, that big 100 in New Zealand. So now, even with this talk of Steve Smith dropping down again, and if he goes back to number 4, wouldn't it be unfair on Cameron Green, because you've looked at him as a long-term number 4? So a lot of questions to be asked, but that was a risk they were always willing to take with Steve Smith going up to the top.
Cam Green said a couple of days ago that he'd put his hand up if it meant Steve Smith batting at 4. So we could, I mean, he's technically very good, isn't he?
He's extremely good. And personally, Manners, I was of the opinion that when David Warner retired, and if Australia were understandably desperate to bring Cameron Green back into the side, that he should be the one opening, because he can play fast bowling really well. He leaves the ball really well. He's worked a lot on his technique. His head doesn't fall over anymore. So I think technically he's very gifted. I think number 6 was always a problem for Cam Green at this stage of his career, because he just struggled to get the tempo of Test cricket. And I'm sure you guys saw it as well every time he got a chance, even in England last year. But opening the batting, I thought, would suit him a lot. But it also tells you a lot about this current Australian team, where, they do like to talk a lot about blokeship and mateship and brotherhood, don't they, in Australia? But it is real in this setup under Andrew McDonald and Pat Cummins. They are willing to, do things for each other, make sacrifices. So I would go with Cam Green. Between us, I would really stick with Cam Green and push Steve Smith back down to number 4, especially with the 2 big home summers coming up this year and next year.
You mentioned the big home summers. Just finally for me, Bharat, the Ashes, it's not far away. It's going to be on us very, very quickly. What of everybody in Australia when they're waking up in the morning and seeing some of the pattern collapses, or seeing the way England have played over the course of this last English summer? Are they more confident now, or are they less confident, or are they just still see this Baz ball as it won't work against our four-man bowling attack?
I'll be very honest, Hami. Even now, anytime someone mentions Baz ball in Australia, it's followed with a because that's just the reputation Baz ball seems to have in Australia. I don't think anybody takes it seriously for now. I mean, if England come next year and smash Australia and win the Ashes, then maybe they'll wake up and take it seriously. It doesn't help when England, lose the way they do, even if it's just one test. They do turn on Baz ball very quickly. But I'll tell you what, I mean, there's a Aussie rules football team, Hawthorn, who lost last week. They have started playing this version of highly entertaining Aussie rules football. I wrote a column comparing them to Baz ball, and now they call themselves Hawk ball. They've lost as well. So both Baz ball and Hawk ball lost last week. But I think what Australian cricket fans are more excited about, Hami, is about seeing Jofra Archer back and Mark Wood bowling at that pace. I think it would be wonderful for the Ashes itself if those two can stay fit. And some of the others as well looked impressive. Gus Atkinson is someone everybody's talking about as well. So I think it's more the bowling that's exciting Australia right now. Whereas when it comes to the batting and Baz ball, well, we'll wait and watch.
I'll tell you a little one about Mark Wood at the weekend. We were watching, obviously, it's the last cricket match of Ashington's season. And he was messing about with, he is a kid. He's messing about with the kids in the corner. And they were playing Heidi Bosik. And he come and stood next to me, and he sort of stood sideways. And I was like, what on earth are you doing? And he went, I'm hiding from the kids. So he was playing hide and go seek behind me. So it just shows you how fit he is and how unfit I am. So he was hiding. I was ready to pull his head off. But no, he's in good order. He's in good spirits, as you from that story. And I think if Jofra and Mark come and they do play say 4 test matches each, I think Bazball might just work in Australia.
And just on that, I mean, I think another guy that everybody's in Australia has been impressed with is Shoaib Bashir. Like, they've always come here with finger spinners who are more side spin dominant. We saw Jack Leach being taken down early on in the last series 3 years ago. So if Shoaib Bashir can continue his rise and continue bowling the way he is, he bowls like an Australian off spinner, doesn't he? I think he could play a big role, because that's one thing England have always lacked here. Someone just holding one end up. And if that can work, who knows? Like, yeah, it will be a fun series regardless. But yeah, that could be a vital cog as well.
And finally, just for a laugh, give us a prediction for the ODI series, and more importantly, for the Border-Gavaskar Trophy.
I think ODI series, Australia will win 4-1, but I think of what, like 500 overs, maybe 120 overs will be watched by an Australian audience, like which will be pretty much the first power plays of each game. I'm not even kidding. It's probably the worst time to have a one-day series away from home with the football on, unless late into the night you're watching in a pub, the football's happening, and then the cricket follows. As far as the Border-Gavaskar Trophy goes, Manners, I have a feeling, and this is a serious answer, boring answer, but I think Australia will win purely because looking at India's fast bowling stocks, there's way too many injury-prone bowlers there. I know they won with net bowlers last time, but something about this current lot, Pat Cummins and Andrew McDonald, I don't think they'll panic like the previous 2 Australian teams did. So yeah, there you go. How Australian do I sound? It's also like, just a matter of time before I get my citizenship. But so I'm also very careful about, always talking up Australia wherever I go.
Bharat, absolute pleasure as always. Thank you so much for your time, and have a good evening in Adelaide.
Thank you so much, Manners. Can't wait to see you guys next year.
That's the one and only Bharat Sundaresan, cricket writer and broadcaster. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former #1 bowler in the world, Steve Harmison. Next up, we'll discuss England's test squad for the series in Pakistan and the news that Ben Stokes is set to sign a 2-year central contract with the ECB. Right, England, in the absence of an itinerary, Harmy, they don't know where they're going to be playing, had no choice but to announce a 17-man squad to take on Pakistan in the 3-match series. Ben Stokes and Zach Crawley both returning to the side after injury. I wonder, I did wonder whether once the itinerary is announced, whether they might release a couple of players, but you can't do that, can you? You can't name a squad and then say, oh, actually, sorry, the wrong venues, we're not going to take you, we don't need you. You can have the winter off.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Actually, I don't mind taking big squads. I think your players that don't play get better practice when you take a big squad, because all of a sudden, if you've got 6 lads who aren't playing, you can go, well, you two just cover the sort of 12-man duties. Us 4 are going to go and have a good net. Bat behind the scenes, go and have a bat and a bowl and have a really good net where you build a little bit of a relationship up. You get into a contest. There are always them Ashes tours that you go on when you didn't play. You had better practice when the games were on, when you could get away with 3 of your mates and go and having a good contest out in the net. So I don't mind having big squads. I think they work. I look at the squad; it's probably the best we could possibly have picked. Feel sorry for Dan Lawrence a little bit, but I think the innings at the Oval in the second innings, I think now explains why he played the way he played. Because I think he might have had a tap on the shoulder before that innings to say, you're not going to Pakistan. So he came out playing in the white ball format and said, right, I'm off to play a franchise tournament, so I might as well get some practice on it. And the only other one out there that's probably missing would be Mark Wood. You forget Jofra Archer at this moment in time. But if you throw Mark Wood in, there's 18 names where I don't think you're going to be too far away from, along with Jofra, where England probably will be come this time next year when you're going to go Ashes and you're going to go to Australia. So, I mean, there's 1 or 2 others. Josh Tongue, is he going to be fit? God knows. Batting wise, this will be the top 7. that goes to Australia. And it'll just be about getting your bowling combinations. I like Carse. I think he has to play. I mean, I'm not a big one for giving caps out for just for the sake of it, but Brydon Carse has got to play instead of Chris Woakes for me. Because we know what Woakes can do. We know how much he struggles away from home. He's brilliant in England, and I would play him in the first Test match in England when he gets back. But I think we need to find somebody that can bat number 8 and bowl for England and bowl in the Test matches. And Carse fits the mould that Rob Key and Brendon McCullum, Ben Stokes wants, which he's got pace, and he can bat at number 8, not a problem at all. So I think they've got, like they have done with Josh Hall and one or two others, they've got to play Carse to get him some games in international Test match cricket ready for potentially what is going to be in 12 months' time. He might have to bat number 8 in the Ashes. So that's my big take from that 17-man squad that's going to go to Pakistan, especially on flat wickets, and obviously potentially New Zealand straight after that.
Jack Leach and Rehan Ahmed have both been recalled, unsurprisingly. Harmy, I was supposed to be cooking dinner for my wife a couple of days ago, and we ended up getting takeaway because I was on the stream of the Somerset-Surrey game, and I could not take my eyes off it. It was absolutely astonishing. And, you know, if anybody doubts Jack Leach's form, he's taken 26 wickets at 15 in his last 5 innings for Somerset, and won the game with about, was it 5 minutes to spare? Absolutely brilliant. I mean, Jack Leach, I've never seen him bowl better.
Yeah, he bowled brilliantly, didn't he? I was the same. I was watching it as well. He went off that last wicket and he celebrated like Manly Panesar. I mean, it was unreal. It was like Imran Tahir and Manly Panesar going off. But, you know, it showed how much it means to play for Somerset. It was a great game with so many good things in it. I know Archie Vaughan got loads of the headlines, and rightly so. And, you know, that game, I think that game was so good for county cricket lovers in this country, and there is a lot of them. There's even more knockers of it. I mean, there's even more people that think of negatively about it. But just forget the surname for a second. I mean, there's an 18-year-old lad who has played against the best team in the country for 3 years, bowled nearly 70 overs, and the wickets he got, the wickets Archie got, I mean, there weren't long hops, there weren't drag downs as a spin bowler. He took 11 wickets in a match.
He rips it, doesn't he?
Yeah, 4 of the 5 in the second innings where the LBW were bowled. He had so much control. And I think that tells you, I mean, we've already seen the likes of Rocky Flintoff and Farhan Ahmed. I mean, the one that's excited me this week, and I'm so pleased Mickey played him, because I've been shouting at Mickey Arthur to play him for ages. The boy Harry Moore down at Derbyshire, big, tall, fast bowler. I love that. I mean, when I seen him, Martin Spate told me about him 2 years ago. When I seen him bowl in his debut this week, I was like, whoa, we might have an outsider going to Australia here. We might have a Harry Moore might be an outsider going to Australia. These kids playing now, and when I watch what Archie did, I mean, like I said before, take the surname out of it. He bowled with so much control. I mean, he's built up so much pressure against international batters. I mean, the game of cricket in this country, especially for some of our young players, is definitely thriving. So that was good. I mean, I love the fact that Somerset beat Surrey, and John Norman, our boss, will not like me for saying that, because it keeps the championship alive. I still think Surrey will win it. But no, I was like you. I was glued to it, and I was so pleased for Jack. So pleased for Jack Leach, because he's going to go to Pakistan. There's a good chance of him playing, and the form he's in. I mean, he possibly walked straight back into the England team when they played 2 spin bowlers. And sometimes when you go in there, your second spinner is the weak link, and he'll not be that weak link because of the experience he has in international cricket. So it was good to see.
3 more questions. Jordan Cox seems to have been earmarked for, I don't know exactly what, but I mean, he's clearly the New England dispensation, whether it's Rob Key or Brendon McCullum or you know, more than that, maybe Ben Stokes as well. But they thrown away the old handbook for selection, haven't they? I mean, they go like Jamie Smith, Josh Hull, several actually They haven't earned their selection in the traditional way by being the top of the county averages. And it seems to me that Jordan Cox has been earmarked. He's going to Pakistan as the spare batter. So there's that. And also Chris Woakes. I mean, I don't know if the pitches are super flat as we would expect, and as they were a couple of years ago in Pakistan. You know, would he want to go? Of course he wants to go, but you know, there's a large sample size of him averaging 50 with the ball on flat tracks without a Duke's ball, and you know, and he's 36. I mean, we all love Chris Woakes. He's the nicest cricketer in the world, and the most decent human being. But I just can't quite fathom why he's going.
I would have took him. Like I said, I play Cars, but I would always have him there. I think Chris Woakes in your group makes your group better, makes your group stronger, keeps it honest. I think his dressing room manner, I think he's all-round good guy. I think his experience of international cricket, I think his calmness around young players, I think his knowledge of the game, both abroad and, you know, a lot of that is a struggle. I think that would stand a lot of the young bowlers in good stead to have that. Not because, remember, we haven't got Anderson anymore. We haven't got Anderson. Jimmy will be there as a coaching capacity. But I think having Chris Woakes there, I think you've always got somebody good to fall back on. It's the same as Jack Leach. I would always take Jack Leach because for two young spin bowlers, I think Jack would be that good egg who is always good to fall back on. Make sure that he'll always be doing the right thing. He will always be doing the right thing for the group and the team. So I think in Woakes and Leach, I think you had to take them both. There's a chance that, you know, you play Cars. For me, I'd play Cars in Pakistan, and then, you know, and the wickets are doing a bit. Maybe he's go with Woakes at number 8 in New Zealand. I think the horses for courses selection. But I think we need to see somebody that is potentially going to play in Australia at number 8, because I think that's going to be a key position for the not where the Ashes go. But I tell you what, if we have a number 8 batting after Jamie Smith, who can get us 40 or 50, 60, 70, 80, I think that's the difference between winning and losing an Ashes Test match. And I think that is the key component, especially over in Australia. And if you've got somebody that does that can bowl quickly like Cars can, I think we need to have a look at it. So that's why I'd keep Woakes around, because I mean, his experience and knowledge and, you know, all-round good person, along with Jack Leach, I think they'd be invaluable for the group. And that's why I'm happy they're taking 17.
All right, finally, central contracts. Jamie Smith set to be awarded his first. Leach and Reece Topley are set to be given another one-year contract. And it raised huge eyebrows at the time when the last round of central contracts were awarded, Harmy. There were a dozen players who had 2 or even 3-year central contracts, whereas Ben Stokes only signed one-year contract. And it did raise a lot of eyebrows, didn't it? And we wondered whether there was a bit of power play going on. But he is now set to sign the rest of what would have been a 3-year contract. He's set to sign a central contract for the next 2 years. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs. I don't know this for a fact. This is only my opinion. I just think, a typical Ben, I just think at the time, Ben with his knee, there was a lot of things that could have gone wrong with that knee once it got operated on, because we didn't know to the extent of what was going on inside the knee, whether he was going to be able to get it fixed, whether he'd be able to play for, you know, for a long time, for a short period of time. Would he have to go into white ball cricket because his knee wasn't going to be fixed enough to bowl? And I just think there was a lot of things up in the air at the time, and I think that's why Ben only signed a 1-year contract. There might be other things. There might have been the franchise option in there. There might have been a lot of other things that were being discussed that I've got no idea about. But I just looked at it and thought, at the time of central contracts come out, Ben Stokes wasn't sure where Ben Stokes was going to be in 12 months' time when it comes to the knee situation. And I think that's why he only signed 12 months. And now, more clearer, you see where they're going. It makes sense that it's a 2-year contract to take him to the end of the Ashes. And I think that might be him done after that.
We're almost out of time, and I'm going off script here, Harmy. Not that you and I generally tend to stick to a script, but have you have you heard the news that Major League Cricket, one of the franchises in the MLC, is apparently seriously interested and is attempted to or has opened discussions with Jimmy Anderson? Have you heard that news?
I've seen that this morning. Yeah, I've seen that news this morning. There was a figure on, which I'm not going to say what the figure was. There was a figure on the on the ticket tape going, hold on. If they're going to offer you that, Jimmy, you've got to go. I mean, it's not even a retirement league; it's a proper league. I thought, Jimmy's going to get that for going to play with the likes of Kevin Peterson and Ian Bell and Sachin Tendulkar in these road safety leagues. But no, this is a proper one. So, look, if he can get it, then why not have a go for it? I thought he might have gone and played for Lancashire. I thought Lancashire might have tried to get him to play the last couple of games when they're struggling. Obviously, they had a struggle. They got beat at Durham this week. So I thought Jimmy might have seen a headline with James Anderson playing the last two championship games. But it just seems as though the summer's been quite hectic for him in this new coaching role. He will be going to Pakistan. He is going to New Zealand. So he's probably going to have some time away. But it'll be interesting to see how that story runs and whether it's a little bit of pie in the sky, of a bit like the Mark Butcher with the Americans. I wonder if the Americans have contacted Jimmy. I know for a fact Jimmy likes his money, so he'll have seen the figure at the bottom of it and gone, for 2 weeks, yeah, I'll go for that. Not a problem at all.
I wonder whether if Lancashire, I thought Lancashire might give him a call and say, Jimmy, we're going down here. We're facing relegation. Could you come and give us a hand? That's what I thought would happen.
They're going down.
Yeah, they are. Right, okay. On to part 4. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with Durham Hall of Famer Steve Harmison. Next up, in part 4, we'll be joined by New Zealand all-rounder Daryl Mitchell to look ahead to a very busy few months for the Black Caps. You're listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with Double Ashes winner Steve Harmison. And you can head over to the talkSPORT Cricket YouTube channel, where you'll be able to watch an interview with the Hampshire CEO, who has discussed the need for private investment in the county game.
The English game's not in the greatest of health at the moment financially. I think there's a lot of counties that are struggling. I don't think anyone's, well, maybe one or two, but most are, are short of money to, whether it's to pay the bills or whether it's to fulfil their ambitions for what they want to do with their stadia, with their squads, with their pathways, with supporting their communities. So we all, I think, could do with an injection of cash to make to help us with our visions, our dreams for the game, to make and our legacy that we're going to leave for the next generation. So I think private investment is definitely the way forward for that. We've been privately held here at Hampshire for 20 odd years. That's Hampshire wouldn't be here if it weren't for a private investor. So I don't think there's anything wrong with the private investment as long as you get the right private investors. And I think it's an exciting time for the game. I think we're on the cusp of real sort of generational transformation that could shape the next the next 30, 40 years of how the game looks, but really bring the game to more and more people as well. I think we're the fastest growing sport in the UK. We've probably, I think it's something like 3 million attendees of last year, and there's scope to grow that much more. So, but investment, making the better facilities, just making everything more accessible is, and also rewarding the players better, making cricket more of an aspirational sport. The players don't get paid very much compared to other sports that maybe one or two at the top level do, but there's a whole sort of network of players who don't and probably deserve to be paid much better. So I think investment all round is going to help us with all of those things. Because
there's been a lot of reports in the press about Hampshire's involvement with the GMR group. I'm not going to go into specifics about that. I know you probably can't, but is it a case of it helps that Hampshire are quite a unique, they're not a member-owned county, as you say, so that will obviously help in bringing private investment. But is it in a case for English cricket to maybe make it, not please everyone, upset a few people, but for the long-term future of the game?
Well, we always try and do what we think is in the best interest of the game and of our venue and our spectators, our fans and our local community, and we'll always do that. And I think, as I said, there's nothing wrong with private investment as long as you've got the right private investor. Yeah. If we were to partner with a new investor, it would be a party that we thought was the right person to hand the baton over to, and we've got a legacy here that we've been working on for the last 20 odd years. We're not going to give that away lightly. We want to make sure that we pass that baton on to the right people, and they grow it in a way that we probably couldn't do. So it's exciting times in a whole range of different ways.
Now I'm delighted to say we are joined live by New Zealand all-rounder Daryl Mitchell. Daryl, many thanks for your time. It's a heck of a busy time coming up for the Black Caps. You've got 8 Test matches in the next 3 months. You often don't play that many in a year. It's exciting times for the Test squad.
Yeah, look, for us, Test cricket's it's very special to a lot of us, and chance firstly to play, I think it's 5 Test matches now in the subcontinent, and obviously then England at home for 3. It's an exciting time for us to play in different conditions all around the world and keep trying to win games of cricket.
Now, it was frustrating, wasn't it, the Afghanistan game? I think more for the world of cricket, I think. You've played a lot of cricket all around the world, a chance to play against Afghanistan. I think we've seen what they do in white ball cricket. But it would have been, a fantastic contest if you could have getting a game. Plus, it would give you a good indication where you are going into what is going to be a tough series against Sri Lanka.
Yeah, look, it's disappointing. I guess, you want to play Test cricket and you want to test yourself against the best. And, that's the nature of the game sometimes. There was a hell of a lot of rain. And also, I guess, with the conditions, it was probably more a rugby field than a Test match outfield by the end of those 5 days with the amount of rain they had. So, yeah, look, it's disappointing. It's something that's out of our control. And just looking forward now to taking on Sri Lanka.
Well, if it was a rugby field, you'd have been better equipped than some of your teammates. Actually,
a few of the boys back themselves. So, yeah.
I wanted to ask you about Greater Noida. I've been to India many, many times. I'd never even heard of it. So presumably the 5 days you had some chance to do some sightseeing, did you?
Look, I think as well as us that when you're in India, you spend a lot of time in your hotels. That we were lucky the food was brilliant at the hotel, so we tested out a lot of the menu, having 5 days sitting around watching it rain. So a few of the boys played some golf as well, which is always nice to get out of the hotel. But obviously you're sitting there hoping that you can get on each day, and then you're sort of waiting around, and once a day gets called off, you can, as you know, as a batsman, you kind of can actually relax because you're sort of preparing the whole time that you might play. So,
and the Sri Lankan series coming up, you've got England straight after that, like Mann has mentioned. You've also, you must have seen Sri Lanka play against England in the recent series. Yeah, they lost 2-1, but these guys put up a fight, and what you're expecting from Sri Lanka, because they're on different conditions, they'll be more favourable from them home, but they've got a very, very good side you're going to go up against this week.
Yeah, look, especially here in Galle, the wickets traditionally very slow and can turn, which will suit their bowlers. But yeah, I watched a lot of that Test series against England in the last month, and Sri Lanka in their own country is very challenging. They've got some batters who know how to score big runs, and they've got some bowlers who are very consistent and build pressure over long periods of time. So for us, as Kiwis, it's just making sure we stick true to who we are, and that's, I guess, that sort of fighting Kiwi mentality, trying to do all the little things that we pride ourselves on, and hopefully we'll do that for long periods of time, and hopefully win sessions, which means we win Test matches.
I read a very interesting article recently about you talking about working on your skills against playing spin. You've got 5 Test matches in which you're probably going to come up against a lot of spin. Are you moving towards being a specialist batsman now? Are you still bowling? Still want to keep bowling?
No, I still had a bowl today in the nets, and there's a lot of sweat dripping off this shiny head. So look, I love bowling. I'm a competitor at heart. That's what drives me. So to be able to both bat and then offer overs when I can, it keeps me in the game. It keeps me competitive. And although my role's, I guess, very different out here on these type of surfaces to what it is back home, it's about, for me, getting stuck into that contest and doing a job for the team.
And Daryl, we're looking at New Zealand cricket. It's more often than not playing 2-match series. You got a chance of a couple coming around the corner, a 3-match series. I know last year the year before when we were out there, we seen you. Actually, me and Mann have seen you in a supermarket with trying to sort of rally the kids around getting tea. We know exactly what that feels like. So we had sympathy. We had a lot of sympathy with you there, and it was give as much space as possibly can when the kids are involved. But No, we were there. We seen the 2 match series. It would have been great for a third one after what happened in Wellington. Is it good now that you are playing 3 match series?
Yeah, look, I think that's firstly, I guess, the nature of how this team's gone over the last decade and a half or so, to be able to compete with the world's best and for us to, won World Test Championships and be number 1 at periods of time, that hopefully we deserve to get these longer series. We played England in a 3-match Test series a few years ago, and for me, that's awesome to be able to, I guess, the ebbs and flows of a series and understand how guys are bowling you at different times. And it's cool. This is why you play Test cricket, is to test yourself against the best. And it's not always your day, but hopefully you can keep contributing and you have more good days than not.
You're in Galle at the moment, and you've got a couple of weeks in Sri Lanka. Then on to India. I wanted to ask you about your relationship with India in particular, the subcontinent in general, I suppose. But being an IPL star now with the Chennai Super Kings, is India becoming very, very familiar? Do you have a certain affection for it?
Yeah, look, I've spent a lot of time in India over the last 12 months, especially, and look, I just love how much they love cricket. The passion that they have for it, and every time you go there, it's different challenges, whether it be IPL and the beast that is IPL, how fast the game happens, how as a batsman, how aggressive you've got to be in that tournament. But also Test cricket in that part of the world is very challenging, especially for us as Kiwis, which we're brought up on some pretty green and bouncy wickets. So look, I love the food, I love the place, and always enjoy going to India.
Talk to me about the sort of, the landscape of, you're an experienced player, the landscape of cricket, red ball, white ball. I know it's maybe one for above your pay grade, but New Zealand seemed to be one of the sort of more progressive cricket boards where they try and allow their players to play around the world. I think a lot of financial reasons for that. We've seen a lot of New Zealand players turn down central contracts. How important is it from a player's point of view that the administrators get the schedules right with the amount of franchise leagues comes up? Because you mentioned there, Test cricket is, for me, it is still the pinnacle, and I'm sure you'll agree with that. But how important it is that the administrators get it right?
Yeah, look, it's definitely above my pay grade, but for me, look, I debuted international cricket a bit later than most people, and for me, I'm very grateful for every chance I get to play for New Zealand. It means a hell of a lot, having, I guess, known how long it took to get here. So everyone's in different circumstances in life, whether it be kids, family, amount of time they spend away playing. So everyone, I guess, makes their own decisions around that central contracting and franchise stuff and balancing between playing international cricket and that. And I think the cool thing that I've seen so far is New Zealand cricket's allowed it to be flexible and allowed, I guess, each individual to hopefully get what they want out of the game, as well as represent New Zealand as much as they can.
Just finally for me, Daryl, on that subject of making your debut a bit later, very few cricketers are ready for international cricket when they're selected at sort of 20. You were 27, weren't you, when you were selected? Do you think you've benefited from that? And do you have a certain sympathy for when you say a youngster being selected for his country?
Yeah, look, I think in many ways it was a blessing for me to be able to debut a little bit later. And although when you're young, you're in a rush and you want to achieve the dreams that you want to achieve in this game, to be able to learn my game at the domestic level for a period of time and have some good years and some bad years and work out, I guess, not only what kind of cricketer I want to be, but also once you get married and have kids, as you said, in the supermarket, you probably understand what kind of person you want to be offered as well. And it's brought a good perspective and balance in my life, and then allows me to go play cricket with a smile on my face and to get stuck into the contest.
And Daryl, just finally for me, England are around the corner. Me and Manners are coming over. If we see you in a bar rather than a supermarket, we'll definitely buy you a beer. But if we see you in a supermarket, we'll let you have 5 minutes with your children. We don't want to get involved in that. But England coming over, it's going to be, a great series. How much are you looking forward to that? Because the way England have played and the new forward-thinking, structure under Brendon McCullum, they're always exciting games when you come play England because there's always going to be a great contest.
Yeah, look, I think for us, it's always really cool when we play England. When we tour England, you obviously the historic grounds and just the atmosphere that those grounds bring. But then also when you guys come over onto our shores down the bottom of the earth, the Barmy Army and and all that aspect of playing England in your own country. It's it's seriously cool. And again, that's why you play Test cricket, is to take on the best and to have those sort of atmospheres. That's what gets you going. And it should be a great series.
Daryl Mitchell, many thanks for your time. It's greatly appreciated. Very best of luck in Sri Lanka. We'll be watching closely. That's New Zealand all-rounder Daryl Mitchell, and you can hear New Zealand's Test series with both India and England on talkSPORT 2, every ball live and exclusive on talkSPORT 2, with the series in India getting underway next month. Right, Harmy, on to this week's final word. We've got, I think, an emotional one and a rousing one. I'll take the rousing one, because I'm sure that you know Sid Lawrence better than I do. For me, Ireland's women have made the greatest improvement for an international team I think I've ever seen over the last 18 months. And one of the reasons for that is a batsman who was one of my favourites in his heyday, Ed Joyce, who's the coach of the women's team. He's a supremely modest man. He takes absolutely no credit whatsoever. But the Ireland women have been completely transformed. I mean, you know, a week after being bowled out for 45 by England, they came back to win the third ODI, consolation win, and then beat England for the first time ever in a T20 international. So, I mean, Ireland really have gone from no hopers to a very competitive outfit. And congratulations to them. Orla Prendergast, actually, give her a mention. She made 80 or 51 balls in that T20 international. But I'm particularly pleased for Ed Joyce. And I think he's, if he wants it, he's got a very bright future in coaching ahead of him.
Yeah, it seems though that there's a bit, when you give something a bit of care, attention, you give your time, because let's be fair, I can't imagine the budget for Ireland women's cricket being too big. So it is all about care and attention. It is all about somebody, putting their stamp on a unit which will grow. And I think you're right. Ed's a great man. I'm fortunate to play alongside and play against Ed. He's a good man playing for England. And if you get somebody that wants to sort of care about trying to make the group better, you've got half a chance of it evolving. And that's what seems to have happened with women's cricket over in Ireland, because I don't think the men's budget is very big. So I can imagine the women's budget being very, very small. So it's not about money. It's about, the love of the game, trying to make each individual as a collective better. And it seemed over the course of this, I think the recent 12 months that Ireland women's cricket is getting better and better. My final word, Manners, is, I mean, you could not help but cry, could you? I mean, you couldn't help but cry. And the sight of James Bracey standing next to Sid Lawrence with the trophy, medal round neck, both in tears. I mean, that's the game in a nutshell. I mean, it is a game in a nutshell. There's so many things that could go into that. I mean, Gloucester being, not one of the fashionable counties, Gloucester, really struggling financially, and that win secures them, 300 grand. I think it secured them. Sid being there for the whole lot. He's done everything at Gloucester, from a young apprentice into bowler, into international player, into sort of the backroom staff, into the chairman's job. To see what he's going through. I was with a PCA golf day last week at the Grove. There was quite a few people mentioned Sid's name, and the state that the big fellow, the troubles that the big fellow was having. To sort of see him on finals day. I mean, hats off James Bracey. He was fantastic in the tournament. But I mean, the icing on the cake, to see the human element of what James and Sid shared for Gloucestershire County Cricket Club was absolutely brilliant.
And we wish Sid all the very, very best. Of course, he made public announcement that he's been diagnosed with motor neurone disease. So we wish him the very, very best. And that's the show for this week. You've been listening to Following On here on talkSPORT 2 with me, Neil Manthorp, along with former England fast bowler Steve Harmison. We'll be back at a similar time next week to look back at the first couple of ODIs between England and Australia and ahead to the final round of county championship matches with a mouth-watering prospect that is. But for now, this has been Following On.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.